Hi, everyone. My name is Kat Abner. I'm Vice President of Community Impact at the Fund for the Arts. And we're here to talk about ArtsMatch for racial equity today. So there are a lot of new faces on the screen for us. So I figured before we jump in to talking about ArtsMatch, I'll share a little bit about the Fund for the Arts for those of you who are new to us. So the Fund for the Arts was founded in 1949, and our mission is to fund arts and culture across Greater Louisville and sometimes across the state, depending on funding we have available. And we really work to advance economic development, education, and quality of life for all those who are in our community. So today we're going to talk specifically about ArtsMatch, and I've got a PowerPoint that I'm going to pull up for you. So of course, as we go through this, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And then you can also hold your questions for the end of the session. We'll have time. There we go. So you're going to hear today from me, Kat Abner, as well as two other members of our team, Jordan Turpin. She's our impact coordinator, and many of you may have heard from her already with announcing this grant opportunity. And then you're also going to hear from Allison Addy. She's our impact intern, and she'll be with us through June. We have a general email address where if you send an email to grants@fundforthearts.org, you'll get both me and Jordan. So feel free to reach out to us there first, or you can contact us individually. So today, what we're going to go over is the information that's included in the grant guidelines for ArtsMatch. And that essentially covers what ArtsMatch is, what the focus of the projects are for this year, timeline, who's eligible to apply, how you can use funds, how your proposals will be reviewed, and then what's expected of you if you're selected for funding. And then we'll also show you the application itself and how to find that information on our website. So first, what is ArtsMatch? ArtsMatch is a matching grant opportunity that expands the capacity of cultural providers to create special arts-based projects. Each year, ArtsMatch has a theme that we address in advance, and we're going to tell you more about that theme in a minute. So if your project is selected to participate in ArtsMatch, you'll get a crowdfunding page on the Fund for the Arts website. And then the Fund for the Arts will work with you to promote your project and drive donors to make donations in support of your project. The Fund for the Arts then matches dollar for dollar what you raise on your crowdfunding page. This year's theme is addressing and advancing racial equity, diversity, and inclusion in Kentucky through arts-based projects. So some of you may say, wow, that's really broad. And yes, it is very broad. We didn't want to put any tighter parameters around this because we want to see what creative projects, what innovative ideas that our cultural providers across the state have to address this topic. I'm going to turn it over to Allison, who's going to talk about the timeline for ArtsMatch.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. So just as far as the timeline goes, today at 10 a.m. there was an applicant info session, which I think we're all on the ball for that one. This Thursday, February 11th, there's a second applicant info session, which contains the same information as this one, so it's not necessarily required to attend both. Applications will be due at 11:59 on March 17th, and on April 9th, you will be notified if you received a grant award. On April 16th, there will be a grantee orientation at 10 a.m. We do recommend that you go ahead and put this date on your calendar so that way you don't have to make a sudden commitment on April 9th if you get selected for the grant. April 22nd through June 30th, the crowdfunding window will be open. And then July 1st, 2021 and August 31st, 2022, the projects will be implemented. On February 1st, 2022, the mid-year impact report will be due, and on September 30th, 2022, the final impact report will be due. So in terms of who can apply, any cultural provider in Kentucky may apply. These include artists, artist teams or collectives, arts and cultural organizations, schools, community centers, or community-based organizations, neighborhood associations, etc. You can submit a proposal as an individual, a group or organization without taxes exempt status, or as a nonprofit organization. And we do want to point out that in the application, you will be asked in what group you will be submitting a proposal for. So that's just something you want to keep in mind as you formulate your project idea in your head. And then also in terms of who may apply, just keep in mind that all project activities must take place in Kentucky and benefit Kentucky residents. You do not have to be a 501c3 or be affiliated with a 501c3 to apply. And if you apply as an individual or as a non-tax exempt organization or group and are selected for a grant award, your grant award will be considered taxable income by the IRS. And also, just in case if you have any questions regarding this, these slides, we do have a frequently asked questions document on the website where the grant information is located. So if you have any questions after this presentation that you didn't get a chance to ask, that resource is there for you to utilize to read. And yeah, thank you. ArtsMatch funds may be used to cover costs associated with planning, implementing, and evaluating projects that address the ArtsMatch theme. It is recommended that costs associated with planning and evaluation of the proposed project do not exceed 20% of the total budget. And this 20% does not include teaching artists fees that are associated with the implementation of the project. Funds may not be used to cover general operating expenses or event/season sponsorships. And now Jordan's going to take over and talk more about funding and application requirements. Thanks.
Thanks, Allison. I get to talk about the fun stuff, money. So if you decide you're going to apply and your grant is selected and you go through the process of filling out the application, this is how the breakdown of what you can request is broken down. So you can request anything between $500 and $20,000. And we've given you some examples because that can be a little bit confusing. So if your total project is $20,000, that's your project cost. Fund for the Arts will match $10,000 and you will need to raise $10,000 in the crowdfunding on the crowdfunding page. Another example would be if your total project cost is $40,000, that is the maximum that will be an even match split. So Fund for the Arts match will be $20,000. And you will need to raise $20,000 in the crowdfunding on the crowdfunding page. Now, if you have a bigger budget project, like $100,000, you can still apply for that. The maximum that the fund will match is $20,000, and the maximum you can raise in the crowdfunding page is $20,000. So you'll need to raise the remaining $60,000 of that $100,000 project through other sources. So once you've applied, I would recommend using this criteria as you're filling out that application, but this is how your application will be scored. So ability to successfully execute the proposed project, clear description of the proposed project and project activities, clear description of the proposed project's target audience, demonstration of how the proposed project addresses and advances racial equity, inclusion, and diversity for the proposed project's target audience and the community in which your target audience resides. Alignment of the proposed project's outcomes with the proposed project's activities. Strength of data collection methods of how data will be used to demonstrate the degree to which outcomes are achieved. Realistic promotional and fundraising plan. Congruency of the proposed project timeline, budget expenditures, and the proposed project description and outcomes. And all of this information can be found in the grant guidelines. So you can always go back to that grant guidelines document, which we can direct you to if you need that. How will my application be reviewed? So our priority will be given to applicants not currently receiving Fund for the Arts Sustaining Impact grants. That does not mean you can't apply. Priority is also given to applicants who have never received funding from the Fund for the Arts and applicants from traditionally underrepresented and underserved populations. And again, just want to reiterate, that does not mean you can't apply if you've received funding from us before. It'll be reviewed by independent peer reviewers, and the Fund for the Arts staff does not score the applications. And then, so once that whole process is through, the grant will be paid 30 days after the crowdfunding window closes. So there'll be a single grant payment issued to the grantee. The payment will include the funds raised through the crowdfunding page and the matching funds provided by FFTA. A couple of notes, or a few notes, all fundraising transactions must be made via the ArtsMatch crowdfunding platform. So that is your matching fund. So if you applied, your project cost was $20,000 and you're responsible for that $10,000 for the fund to match, that $10,000 must be raised through the crowdfunding page. You can't like pull in external fundraiser money dollars to fulfill that match. Those matching funds also could only be raised during that window. And then grantees who do not reach their crowdfunding goal will be required to submit an updated project proposal and budget that aligns with the amount of funds raised via crowdfunding, plus the matching dollars to Fund for the Arts for approval before the grant payment will be issued and project implementation may begin.
Jordan, before you move to the next slide, I realize we have a caveat for fundraising transactions being made via the crowdfunding platform. So there have been a couple of cases in the past where a project has been able to get like a foundation or a large corporate sponsor for their projects. And that foundation or that corporate sponsor, it was their policy not to make credit card donations. And so we did allow those donors to provide a check rather than provide their donation via the crowdfunding platform. So there is a little bit of flexibility there.
Awesome, thank you. So then if your project is selected, here are kind of the next steps. There will be a letter of agreement that you will sign with the Fund for the Arts that outlines everyone's roles and responsibilities. You will work with our Fund for the Arts team to develop the content for your crowdfunding page. This can include information, logos, photos, attend the grantee orientation, which again is on April 16th at 10 a.m. Promote your project to raise funds. You want to get people to give to that crowdfunding page. Submit a mid-year impact report and final impact report. Recognize the Fund for the Arts and LG&E and KU Foundation as a donor, and participate in at least one Fund for the Arts advocacy activity.
All right, so now we're going to talk about how do you actually apply for ArtsMatch. So there are 3 different ways that you can submit your application, and I'm going to go to our website and show you each of these different formats. But the first way is in writing in an online form. The second is in audio or video recordings, providing links to those recorded responses in an online form. And then there's also a written paper application that is available to you. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take you to our website. Okay, so to find the ArtsMatch application, you're first going to go to fundforthearts.org, and then you'll go to apply for funding and just hover over that. And you can find it on any of these 3 tabs. So if you're a school or a community center, if you're an organization or an individual, it's included under all 3 of these. So I'll just click on for schools and community centers. So when you get to that page, you'll see that ArtsMatch is the first one available. So you'll just click on ArtsMatch or on Apply, either one. It takes you to the same place. So on the ArtsMatch page, what you'll find is some summary information about the grant opportunity, some instructions on the steps for submitting your application. And then about halfway down the page is where you're going to find 6 different buttons. So the first button, which is where we recommend that you start, is downloading the grant guidelines. And so those are available as a PDF. And this again walks you through all of the information that we're covering today. So we recommend you read that first. After you've read the grant guidelines, you can decide how you want to submit your application. So if you're going to submit either the online written application or the online audio video recording application, what you'll be asked to do first is to either set up an account or to log into your account. So if you have never applied for a grant from the Fund for the Arts before, you're going to click on New Applicant, and it's going to ask you to provide your email address and then create a password for you to use to access your account in the future. Since I already have an account, I'm just going to type in my email address and my password, and then I'll log in. So the first thing that you'll see when you log into your account is a summary page, very similar to what's on the ArtsMatch page of the website. Just kind of reminds you about who can apply and what the timeline is. The first place where you're going to be asked to provide information is under contact information. And this is where you'll tell us who you are, so what organization you're with, if you have a name for the group that you're applying for, or if you're applying as an individual, what your name is. You'll also be asked to tell us specifically how are you applying, so how do you categorize yourself. We ask you to provide location information, so things like your street address and what county you're located in. If you're located in Jefferson County, we also ask for you to tell us which Metro Council district you're in, and there's a tool here for you to use to find that information. Then we also ask you to tell us about the leadership of your group or your organization. If you're an individual artist or applying as an individual, you'll put your information under this executive director contact fields. And then you'll be asked to designate who the primary contact is for the application. So that is the person that may be filling out the application. It could be the person who's running the program, but essentially it's who you want to be the person to receive communication about the application and then the grant if you're awarded funding. We also ask you to provide website and social media information, and you'll notice that these fields aren't required. So you're not required to utilize all of these social media platforms, but if you are using them, please share them with us. The next tab that you'll fill out is background information, and this is where you're going to tell us a little bit about your history. So we'll ask you to designate what is your primary artistic discipline. So you'll just select the one that's most relevant to you from this drop-down list. We ask you to describe who you are. So that could be your mission statement if you're an organization. It could be a short like artist bio if you're an individual. We also ask for you to share just a little bit about your experience conducting a similar project. If you haven't ever conducted a project like the one that you're proposing, that's okay. Just share that with us in this box. And then if you're going to be working with any partners or collaborators, we ask you to tell us a little bit about who they are as well. And then let us know the date that your organization was founded, or if you're an individual or an informal organization or group, how much experience you have working in the field. The next section is activities, audience, and impact. And this is where you're going to dive deep into what your project is. So you'll give your project a title, and then you're going to tell us what is the project. and what are the steps that you're going to undertake to do your project. We ask also for a timeline. So we know that when it comes to grant applications, you may not have an exact timeline of what your project is going to be because you don't know if you're going to receive funding. So if you can just briefly outline for us how you think the project will flow, that would be great. Then we move into who your project is going to serve. So we ask you to describe the target audience or population that you'll be serving with your project, and to provide as much descriptive demographic data as you can. So if you're going to be serving a specific neighborhood with your project, describe where that neighborhood is located in the context of the city that it's in. Who are the people that live there? What is their racial and ethnic makeup? What are their age ranges? Is there a specific income level of people that you're trying to serve? And then we ask you to just briefly list the specific area that you're serving. So if your project is to serve Jefferson County and you want to serve all of Jefferson County, just write down Jefferson County. But if you have a more targeted population that you're trying to serve, maybe you're focusing specifically on the California neighborhood in Jefferson County, then you would put California neighborhood. And then how many people you expect to serve with your project. The last section is impact. And so this is where we want to hear from you what change or outcomes you're trying to drive with your project. So we ask you to give us an explanation of how your project is going to address and advance racial equity, inclusion and diversity for your target audience and the community in which that audience lives. The next thing is to provide the specific outcomes you're trying to drive, and what are those concrete things that you're going to be able to measure so that when your project is completed, you can say, we accomplished these 3, 4, or 5 things. And then the last piece is describing how you're going to actually collect that information. So are you going to be giving participants in your project a pre-survey and a post-survey? Are you going to be tracking attendance at events across the time of your project? What are those specific things that you're going to be tracking, and how are you going to be tracking them? So once you've completed the activities, audience, and impact section, you're going to move into budget. So this is where you're going to tell us how much your project costs. So what is the cost of the project? And then what is the crowdfunding goal? So like Jordan said earlier, if your project cost $20,000, then your crowdfunding goal is $10,000, and your match from the Fund for the Arts would be $10,000. If you already have funds committed to your project, we ask for you to share them here for us. You can just briefly list them. And then give us a little bit of an idea of how you would promote your project in order to drive donors to donate to your project. And then the last question is providing kind of like a general outline of how you're going to be spending the funding. So if you can break it into line items and then tell us how much each line item is going to cost, that'd be really helpful. And then attachments. So attachments are not required, but you can provide them if you think that it will help the reviewers have a better understanding of you or your project. So you can provide up to 3 attachments, and those can be work samples, they can be letters of support from your project partners or the community that you're going to be serving. You can provide them either as a document and attach the document, or in the text box, you would describe a little bit about what this work sample or this document is, and then you can also provide a link if it's like a YouTube or some other kind of recording. And again, you can do 3 of those. If you are a nonprofit, we ask that you submit your IRS determination letter. And then the very last section is demographic information. So we ask our applicants to tell us about their demographic backgrounds of either the person who's leading the project or the organization's executive leader. And so the reason we ask for this information is that we want to be sure that when we're funding projects, that the recipients of the funding are reflective of our community. So we ask for the information. The information does not get shared with the review panel. It's only seen internally at the Fund for the Arts. So we keep it confidential. You're going to be asked to tell us about the racial, ethnic background of your project leader or organizational leader. If a gender identification, as well as if they belong to any special or specific communities. So there is for each of these, the gender question and the specific communities question, a prefer to self-describe. So if you want to describe your gender or your belonging to a specific community in a different way than what we have here, that's totally fine. Just let us know in that text box. We also know that there may be people who have not come out with a specific identity, and that's okay too. So under the, if that's the case, then under prefer to self-describe, you would select that, and then you would just put prefer not to answer. So that's the last page where you're going to be asked to provide information. So once you've filled everything in, you'll go to review my application. And what it's going to show for you is if there are any fields where you have left out an answer. So I haven't filled in anything. So it's telling me that you've missed every single question. So it's just a good way for you to kind of double check that you've responded to everything. And then you'll also be able to see the whole application itself. So you'll be able to see like how you responded to each of the questions. So once you have, submitted everything, you've answered all the questions and you're happy with your responses, you would at the bottom select submit. Now, one of the great things about this system is you don't have to finish the application in one setting. So if you're working on it and you're like, okay, I've got to move on to something else, you can select save and finish later. And what that's going to do is it's going to save your application in your grantee account. So I'll show you now how to actually access that. So let's say you've saved it, you've closed everything, and now you're ready to go back and work on your application again. So you're going to use that same pathway. You're going to do fundforthearts.org, apply for funding, select any of those three options, go back to ArtsMatch, and then come back down to these 6 buttons. So if you're working on an online application, you're going to come to this button down here, continue working on your saved online application. And you'll just click here. And then you're going to log in again. And it will come up for you with the list of the applications that you have either submitted or you're currently working on. And you'll be able to click on your FY21 ArtsMatch, and it'll open it back up for you. So you'll be able to continue working on that application. So I'm going to briefly go into the online video recording application, just so you can see what that looks like. It's all the same questions as the online written application, but for each of the questions, it gives you a prompt for how long your recorded response can be. So for example, there are a couple of questions where we do need you to type out your response, and it's noted there for you which ones those are. But let's say, for this question, you're going to be doing a recording, so it tells you how long your recording can be, which is 3 minutes. And what you'll do is you'll just paste the link to the recording into that text box. And just like with the online application, you can save and finish it later. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the Word document application. Again, going back through the pathway. So if you want to download a Word version of the application and type your responses in a Word document, that's fine. Or if you want to handwrite your responses, that's fine as well. So what you'll do is you'll download the printable application, and it'll take you to this page, and then you'll just click on this link here, and it's going to open up for you a Word document. So again, it has the same summary that's available through the online versions. And then the application itself begins on the 3rd page of the document. So it's all the same questions. But again, it gives you a little bit more flexibility if you prefer not to work online. So if you decide to do the Word document version, all you have to do to submit it is you can save it as a Word document and then email it to us at grants@fundforthearts.org, or you can snail mail it back to us. It's whatever is the most convenient for you. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and come back to you all to see what questions you have.
Kat, we've had a couple of questions in the chat box, so if we could start there. Dominique asked if we have funds committed to the project prior to the start of the crowdfunding, are we able to get credit for those funds towards our Arts Reach crowdfunding goal? I can answer that one. Any funds raised outside of the crowdfunding window or crowdfunding page will not be eligible for matching funds. So you can certainly raise that money, it just can't be eligible towards the match.
Great.
Did that answer your question, Dominique? Won't put you on the spot. The next question is awesome. Thank you. The next question is from Jessica. Can it be for a program that we already provide, or does it need to be a new initiative? Kat, I'll let you talk about that one.
Sure. So yeah, so it can be for a program that you already provide, and it can be a new initiative. So, you know, in the past, we have had ArtsMatch projects that are for existing programs, and those programs are really strong and they need funding to continue them. So that's great too. And then we also have had projects where they've taken an existing initiative and said, wow, if we could get a little extra funding, we could grow this initiative, or we could add a new piece to it. And then we've also had projects that were completely created from scratch. So it's a spectrum, as long as it's, again, not general operating support and not just a typical like corporate sponsorship of an event. You can apply, you can submit anything. Any other questions?
How essential are the attachments on the online application?
Like the work samples and letters of support? Is that what you're asking about? Yeah, so they are not essential. They, if you look at the criteria, they're not included in the scoring. So if you want to provide them, you can, but the reviewers are instructed that those specific documents shouldn't impact their scoring of the application. They should really be focusing on those narrative questions. But we hear from reviewers sometimes that it just helps them get more context about what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Can we go back to the slide about the funding? Okay, yes, absolutely. So let me reshare this PowerPoint. Oh shoot, hold on. I accidentally closed it, so let me reopen it. Okay. All right, so the funding. Okay, we'll start here with eligible expenses and see if this answers your question. So Dominique, did you want to just kind of go back over the information, or do you have a specific question?
I feel like I missed maybe the next, well, no, it must have been that slide. I remember this slide, the
Okay.
eligible expenses. This is the one I needed, so thank you.
The funding limit question?
No, the one prior.
Okay, sorry. I'll go back to it.
No, you're fine. No, I just didn't get all of that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Lindsay says, thanks for offering so many ways to apply. Happy to do it, Lindsay. One of the things that we try to get feedback from our applicants, and then we also try to reduce barriers to entry for applicants. So this is, I think, the second or third time that we've done multiple application formats. It worked really well the first 2 times. It was really cool to see like how many people did each format. So as you're working on it, whatever format you choose, if you have a suggestion for like how to make it better or more user-friendly, let us know, because that is really helpful to us as we create new things for future funding opportunities. Okay.
Well, I have a question. Is there, I think there was something that I read that a page or something would be created for your project or something like that?
Yeah. So the way that it works, Rihanna, is you fill out your grant application, and then we have a review panel that reviews all the applications. So we have $50,000 available for matching funds. So we will select the project, a number of projects and that are requesting, a total combined $50,000 in matching funds. And then those projects that are selected will receive a crowdfunding page on the Fund for the Arts website. So during the crowdfunding window, the Fund for the Arts partners with you to do a ton of promotion of the projects to try to drive donors to your individual pages so they make contributions. And I actually have a mock-up of what that page looks like. So let me show that to you. We are using a platform called Giving Fuel. And so each of the selected projects will get their own page, and it will be formatted similarly to this one. So we'd have a logo up here, and then you would have an image of your choice that would become like your header image. And then you would have like your project title and then like a description of your project. And then as people make donations, your kind of goal bar will start filling in until you get to your goal. And then on this same page, that's where donors make donations. And so there's like a countdown for the crowdfunding window, like how long it's open. And then there's suggested amounts for donors, for what they can give, or they can customize how much money they want to give. And they'll put in their billing information and then they'll submit it. So once they submit, that's when your fundraising bar starts to fill in.
Okay. And also, is there any way that we could like add like videos or anything on this page, or is it just the picture?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you can add more than one photo. And then if for some reason you can't have like a video that's running like live, I'm pretty sure that we can put in links to other pages. So like you could put in a link to a video of your work. I'll see if I can find out and then let you know, just so you have that context for while you're completing your application.
Okay. And one more thing, because I came in a little late. Was there anything indicating that I need to be a nonprofit, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. So anyone can apply. You don't have to be affiliated with a nonprofit or be a nonprofit. So just like the Black Artist Fund grants, like you can apply as an individual.
Okay, thank you.
But that, that makes me think that because the grant amounts could be quite large and there could be, significant like income tax implications for a large grant. If you wanted or needed to have like a fiscal sponsor, you can apply through a fiscal sponsorship as well. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, Margaret asks, are there fees associated with the platform? Margaret, that's a good question, and I don't know. I will find out. Okay, check in the chat one more time to see if we've missed anything. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So again, we recorded this session, so we will put the recording on the ArtsMatch page of the website, and we'll also put a copy of the PowerPoint. But of course, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, you can find us at grants@fundforthearts.org. And then again, if email's not your thing, you can reach out to us by phone. We'll make sure that we're available to you in the way that works best for you. And with that, we're gonna stop the recording, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and a good weekend, and we'll hopefully be reading your application soon.